Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 26 of Fabrically Speaking Live. I'm your host, Clare Rowley, and this week's episode is on stretch fabrics, and I'm going to give a shout out to Pat Wells, one of our new viewers today, as it was her calling me this morning, and we got on a conversation that determined the topic of today's show. So, hi Pat, welcome to the group. And I see that all of the other students have been giving you a warm welcome. There's a 12-second difference on the video on your phone and your TV. That happens, actually, Amy, depending on which platform you're viewing on. In fact, on YouTube or on Facebook, it's considerable delay. I was afraid to even mute the microphone after Vincent fixed it. So sorry about you hearing me opening and closing drawers behind the scenes. I was trying to find this little pullover that I created, and I just saw it the other day, which really made me want to sew some stretch fabric and children's clothes. So I took it as a sign from the heavens when Pat called to talk about it. And I would have had this all cut out before, but we had microphone problems, and if you can't hear me, well, there's just no show, right? I do have two other microphones I could use, except for they pick up the sewing machine too much, so you can barely hear me when I get going, and you know how fast I can get going. So hi Tina, hi Amy, Usha Diva, or Divi. I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name right. And Lynn, Quentin. Welcome, everybody. So this pattern, if you saw the image before I went live, is a peekaboo pattern. And the link to the actual pattern is in the description on the video, so that you can go ahead and get this if you have any grandchildren that you might want to make this for. And it took me a while to figure out that there's two links, and one link on their website shows you, I should just go there. Let's see if you want me to do that. I have to type. Peekaboo Pattern Company, I think. So I typed in peekaboo patterns and in the search, and it came up. However, on the video, because if I go onto the video right now on my computer, everything will slow down. So, and they have sewing patterns, but you can just search. It's the best thing to do is to go click on my link, because it also gives me, I'm an affiliate for them now, so I can bring you more sewing clothing. I know Amy's been pushing me to teach actual garments. So this is, what was this one called? It's called, I just type in britches. There it is. What happened? So when you're inside of their site and you pay for the pattern, after you pay for the pattern, you add it to the cart. I don't think I'm loaded. Yeah, I'm not signed in, so I can't show you after you buy, but there's two links. Make sure you click on both links. The first link is to print it in bigger scale. And they also have permission printed on the pattern. But isn't it a cute little pattern? I'm looking really forward to sewing this. And feeling brave, because I haven't sewn a child's clothing in a very long time and never sewed this pattern. So we're going to do it together. You'll see how I work through all of the lessons, and I looked in to see if they had a video tutorial on this pattern. They did not. So I'm sure that they'll appreciate having a step-by-step tutorial on this. And they have this for several sizes, so not just these itty bitties, but I'm going to do an itty bitty because you know how I can get carried away and then everything takes too long. So I restricted myself by buying a small amount of fabric. You're not good at garments, Amy? Well, you know, the only way to get good at anything is to do it a lot. You just really got to want to do it. So maybe you want a really nice pair of jammy pants and you don't ever get a pair that fits well, or you don't like the fabric choices that are out there, or let's see, a skirt that you may want. I'm going to be making a jacket, and coincidentally it is going to be stretch. Let's see here. And it's this fabric here. So it's a very stretchy, see-through, very lightweight fabric. And I have a jacket similar to this that I've worn on the show many times. You probably have seen me wear it. It's cool, so I don't have to worry about getting hot. And I can still be modest when I'm out and feel more slim, covering up a bit. So I want to develop the pattern for this first, or find one that is suitable for it already made, and then teach that for you guys. And I'll tell you what kind of fabric it is on the day when I do that. And Pat was talking about decorating things. This is a sample of a little jacket that my sister did. My sister Kat, who used to work for me at shows. And she used to go on the Home Shopping Network as well for me when I couldn't appear. So these are seed beads, and you can string your own beads if you want, if you don't have the ability to get these. These are called cross-lock beads. So we could decorate with things like that, but it has to be an appropriate place to have a decoration like that. On a jacket, that's good. But if you're going to be sitting like we are going to do on this pattern, or the child will be sitting, it's probably not appropriate. So the pattern comes in pieces. It prints out for your 8.5 by 11 printer. And she has this 2-inch thing so that you can determine that it is a 2-inch actual square. If it isn't 2-inch, then the size of the pattern will not be correct. So once you know that, then you're ready to begin assembling the pattern. And you got to choose which size you're going to do. And I have chosen the green line, which is a preemie. Is it? I hope I can tell. Let's see. Got to compare these colors. I know I picked the littlest of the bottom, the littlest bottom piece. And this is where the applique is going to go. And just to save time, I didn't create a pattern, considering this conversation happened today and this whole thing has been planned out today, and I had to go shopping today. I decided to think about their little bottom and needing maybe a little extra padding. So I got a fleece to applique, which is stretchy as well. So we're going to have a stretchy applique on top of a stretchy fabric sewn onto a stretchy pair of pants. It doesn't get more challenging than that, does it? And all of this will be done without a serger or overlock machine. So if you have just a regular sewing machine, all you really need is a zigzag stitch to be able to sew stretch fabric and not have your stitches or seam allowances break when the garment is pulled onto the person. You like the stuff? I do too. So I was like, okay, did I choose a fabric? Oh, it's hot. I'm going to turn my air conditioning up. I think I got her down. I got a little bit stressed out when the mic didn't work. Hey, hi Ellen, welcome. See Teresa. Hi Teresa, that's a new name. Pretty sure. I'm gonna scroll up a little bit. If I don't catch your name, I'm sorry about that. It's challenging to juggle all of this. Okay. Shoo. So I was thinking about having this be on the bottom, and it's thicker, but we could also stuff it and make it a padded bottom to accentuate the diaper shaped bottom of the pants without taking up space, you know, or making the diaper not fit within the pant. And I read all I could read in the time I had. There were a lot of questions about things like that, and there is room for the diaper in these. And she also has pattern additions so that you could gather and create little ruffles for the bottom. And if there's time, I can show you how to gather stretch fabric so that you can make the little ruffles. If I get thumbs ups or, you know, some kind of begging in the chat, then I can do that. So she has measurements. I'm not hot flashing. I don't have those anymore. Hi, Wendy from the Adirondacks. You're back. I didn't say that right, did I? Okay. So this is very similar, actually, to my dog sweatshirt that I did. It was stretch fabric as well. Just want to make sure I have all the pieces. It's a lot of pieces to put together. Do you guys want to do it for me? It's kind of like a puzzle, so you just have to go, it's okay. This is supposed to be fun. And I really would have had it already done, but the microphone would not go. The computer just didn't find it. And thankfully, my son texted me. Yes, autocorrect definitely can make you say things that you don't want. All right, so we're going to be matching dots. I sure did mess up the page order. Don't do that to yourself. What happened in the middle of printing, I decided to stop the printer for some reason. Then I had to finish it. It's not that difficult. This is one of the easier things that you can do. Another easy thing would be to make little clown costumes for kids. Things that don't fit tight. Do these not have page numbers? They do. I want to represent her well. Okay, so the 2-inch goes at the top. They do give you a printout of the whole thing so you can kind of see how to lay it out. I thought I printed that on a big piece. I think I left it in my office. This helps you to see the layout and how things are supposed to be shaped. It's awfully small writing. So we'll keep that handy. Looking for the curve. This is okay, the writing helps. So that's just something else. And the other side will have the same curve, apparently. So where is it? I just got extra pieces here. I have a feeling I may have to go off screen. When I printed the extra pages that I didn't print off, I printed it double-sided. That won't work. So make sure when you're setting up your printer that you don't set it up for double-sided. 12. Well, this is just fiasco day for Claire. What can I give you to look at? that is fun to stare at. Sorry, you guys, but I can't do this if I don't have the whole pattern. I'll be right back. Now, come on, I don't want you barking. Good boy. Good boy. All right, we're back. You just can't see me yet, but they have something on here that makes it easy. I just didn't see it. So, okay. They have A, B, C, D, E, F, G in a very light color on the actual page. So that will make it a lot easier. Hi, Fiona. Were you the one that left that beautiful picture in the school this morning? I think it was you. And I didn't get a chance to even look at what it was that you made, but it looks like maybe one of my cell phone purses. I can't tell. Oh, I just have had an interesting day. I'm not going to let it bother me. Every day I strive to be perfect, and unfortunately, every day I'm humbled. Okay, well, my printer ran out of paper mid-printout, and when I printed the second, or the pages that it didn't print out, it printed them back to back. And so that's what happened. So I was going to be careful now to not mess things up. They have letters on here, and I'm going to make it so you can see them better because I can barely see them right here. So you can see there's a C. Why can't I hear myself? I didn't mute me. I know why, because I got off of the feed because somebody tried to call me. I got to get rid of that short break on there. Okay, no more short break. Here we go. I tell you guys, it may look easy to do one of these shows, but it's quite challenging. So this is D. And if you don't know what's going on here, this is my Caterpillar light tablet. And my arm is resting, keeps turning it on from the on-off switch that's right here. So when I don't want it on, I usually unplug it. But you can organize it so yours is in a different spot. And this is the E. So much easier when you have the letters to go by. And you can see right here how this rainbow of color will flow into that. So I think before I go on, I'm just going to start with these because I can tell these go together. And on one side, you want to cut to the line. How many of you have already done a PDF pattern and could already have it done because you've done more than I have? Yes, it is a watermark of sorts. I still can't hear me. Why am I not hearing me? You guys hear me? Hit me. Give me a thumbs up so I know you can. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Then you're going to line this up. Okay, so you guys are definitely hearing me. And I just want to hear me. Yeah, I have a Caterpillar paper cutter, and I really want to add those to the site. Why can't I hear myself? This is annoying. I think I'm just not caught up with the live yet because there is quite a delay today. This is a adhesive product by Tombow, and it allows you to just kind of roll an adhesive product on there. But you got to be kind of accurate in order to do this. And I'm looking at the little lines more than the dot. If I'm off a little bit, I'm off a little bit. We aren't even making this for any particular person, so I'm totally relaxed about it. Wow, it's so delayed today. I'm just now hearing myself, you guys. But you have no idea how long it's been because you've been hearing me at this rate all along, so I need to not make a mention of it. This is C, and we got G. Yeah, I definitely will do this always. And this is something I did on by myself. This is the butt or the tushy applique or insert or gusset that is engineered into this pattern. And I did so that I could lay out the applique and make sure it's all going to fit in there. So you won't have one of these unless you have a program that allows you to copy and paste into it. Then you could create one of those. I'd recommend that. So this is a J and this is a J. This is where I'm duplicate. I already got a C. IJ. I think that it would be really nice if on this pattern they put, you know, the letters in here so that you can see them. I can't see them, so I don't think they're on there. Or something to help you, like page numbers. Let's see. So this is B. IJ. It printed out backwards too, so HIJ, G. What letter comes first in the alphabet? Yeah, definitely could be, this could be a little easier, I think. See, this doesn't look right at all, does it? Because we have these lines like that. This is interesting. Does this look wrong to you guys? This is extra on the side, but see how it printed here out on the side? So this is like upside down, I think. So it's going to go this way. Okay, so the reference is not the same as the pattern. But these are things that you guys won't have to suffer through this. This is the F. And a D. Yeah, I definitely think there should be something on the page like 1, 2, 3, 4 pointing to the dots, arrows pointing to the dots, something like that would make it easier. Since the reference pattern doesn't match, this looks like a bottom or a top. Ay, 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 you guys. So I see this one has the lines up in the upper corner. This is one of those moments when I just want to go, you know what? The microphone stopped working. So we're just not going to do it after all. It seems like I have 2 of these. Why is this? See, this is an E and this is an F. It looks like the same piece. Huh. I hope there isn't a flaw in it. So here we have bigger spacing, 1, 2, 3, 4. So do I have another bigger spacing with 4 lines? Ay, ay, ay. Here we go. Now you guys are looking at this too, right? It's not just me. Doesn't this seem wrong? Like something's wrong? It's like this looks like it goes with this next one, but it looks like it's facing the wrong way. Maybe it goes like that. It's coming together. Oh, they have numbers going up and down. 3, 4, 5, 6, like I said they should. Okay. This would all have been figured out ahead of time had I not had my microphone fail. Okay. It's kind of good though to see what people go through when they make your pattern. The data should have come corresponding letters. I think a lot of the younger people don't know how challenging it is to have older eyes. Don't you guys feel that way? Like on programs, computer programs, and websites where they have hidden little buttons that only appear if your mouse slides over them. Doesn't that frustrate you? I just go, why can't you just make everything visible so we can see what we're supposed to do? It would be good to have a video, a more organized one. Not one where the person seems to be struggling. You can also use our liquid-based glue to put your patterns together. And I'm gonna turn the volume down. No, yeah, I'm gonna mute. We'll give it a try. I need a sip. So I'm gonna mute, and hopefully, crossing fingers, everything works. Very refreshing. Okay. There's no cocktail in there. All right, here we go. So I have 2 more pieces that go together. And if it is letter, 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 then that will be easier. It seems so big. And I guess it's because you print out for every size. Say if you're going to make it for like a 10-year-old, because I think this pattern goes all the way up to 10-year-olds based on the pictures that they supplied of children wearing the outfits. There was one that looked like that. Isn't it nice? I was able to mute. Yeah, the liquid base would definitely be easier, but it's more forgiving, but it takes a little longer, and I already have put you through so much. I know some of you are like, I like seeing you struggle because then I don't feel so bad when I struggle. If the letters were right side up, that would help, but they're not. They're sideways. Okay. I know what goes into making a pattern though, so it's challenging. I don't know about this top. It's a little hot. So this is 2T. So this is going to go up here. I'd already figured it out. Okay, so sideways letters did not help. It was a little confusing. Scotch tape works. I have my handy Scotch tape there too. as ready for all versions, and then I found that, and that is my absolute favorite way of taping something like this. Okay. It's not the stress of doing a pattern for the very first time live. It's not. That has nothing to do with it, because I've done much harder than this, haven't I, you guys? WB. WB. Yep. You probably would like, I don't know. What do you want to see? You want to see the top? So seeing me, there we go. So once again, lining up the dot. And then trying to make sure your lines are good. Okie dokie. So you see what I'm doing is I'm leaving one page not cut, then cutting the next page so that they line up. And if all the letters are sideways instead of upright, this should probably go this way. Looks like that will go there. Cool. See, if it said it says 6 months here, but it doesn't say 6 months here. So if it said that on both sides, that would also help your brain to, so it wouldn't hurt to, if you get them laid out and you watch this video again, to, once you match a page side by side, write on them so that you don't have to struggle like I am. So G will probably go here. There we go. So once again, I'm going to leave this page uncut and cut this side so that I can see all the lines when I'm done. And my Caterpillar cutter would be awesome for this. Very precise. So know that we will be adding all their paper crafting stuff too, because they are part of the paper crafting world. Did I cut the wrong one? Nope. Ah, gotta love it when you do something right. Zoom, zoom. Page 3 has pattern layout. Yes, it does, but that's just so many lines. I couldn't figure it out by looking at it. How'd you know that? Oh, because you have the pattern. Well, aren't you glad I did it first, Pat? So that you can see that how it is actually laid out. F. What's weird to me is that this is on the wrong side, so that messed me up for the pattern layout. On the pattern layout, this is on the other side. See? So had she put this on the other side, something is screwy with the overall layout and then the actual. So whatever, we figured it out. Letters are on there going sideways. That is how you do it right. We're doing our ABCs, you guys. Whenever I have a live video like this, remember you can fast forward to the areas that you want to see and not have to watch this painstaking part. This is a good time to ask questions of me, of other things. It doesn't even have to be about this. It's also easier to look straight down, to stand up and look down over your paper. All right, one side done. So there should be A, B, C, D, E. Are they going to go upright? No. So this one's going to go here. I had this figured out. The letters aren't, on this side, the letters don't go sideways. C was figured out. Once again, it's not making sense. Look at the size of the lines and how far they are apart. There we go. Okay. So the letters are all going the same direction. That makes sense, Pat? So they're all sideways, but they're all sitting sideways going the same direction. Where's my A? I already had a D. See, this is what you don't know happens where you have some shows where they have a whole bunch of people working there and they have helpers, and the helpers get them all ready for their show so they can just appear and then do it. All right, we're good to go. Almost there. This one's just... This is what Pat's talking about. That. The one page I missed. Okay, so A and the 2 goes that way. So basically, do 2 sides separately and match the dots, but it didn't seem like B was right. See how the paper staggers in order to get the dots to match? So is the B page the one that's weird? So they can say that this is normal, but I don't know. Let's see. We'll cut this off first. Here we go. So I'm going to start in the middle. That works better. Still, look, now it's not there. I know I'm seeing this the right way, but it's wrong. And there's no dot here. So you can see what's going on here. If you're going to make the pattern, A doesn't have a corresponding dot based on the layout. Because this is the direction that I'm taping right now. So if I ignore the 2, is there another way to get the dot to line up? Nope. So it's definitely supposed to go this way. This is definitely strange. Not overlapping in a logical way. And that's lining up like that. But this page is cut to make that dot line up with that. So I'm going to try that. Now the words. Doesn't go anywhere else. This is what she says. But there's nothing but the dot to line it up. None of the other lines match. And then A, to get A to line up over here, it's too far over, it's too far from there to get it lined up here. So I feel like this is going to have to move. Okay, so I'll cut down on this. This is problematic. This is not that hard, Claire. Come on. So you can see how it's a little screwy. Are you guys bored? Should we not do this today? So something is wrong with the printout. I'm going to let her know. I'll have her watch the video so she can see. It's a pretty easy correction that she needs to make in the page. Or, I don't know. All I did was hit print all of this time, so I couldn't have done anything. The 2-inch measured out. But my concern is without a dot, ow, scissors. Without a dot reference somewhere that's accurate, I have no way to know how to position the other pieces to be accurate. And it looks like C, but I got C going the wrong way. So looks like C may be a good way to cut. We'll see. At some point it'll work. We'll know if C is the one you should go by on the second side for gluing or taping to the other side. B is the one that seems like it's off. This is why I say if you want to learn to sew, you need to really want to sew. You need to choose a pattern, and sometimes not for yourself, because sometimes we'll persevere and push through further or work harder if we're trying to make someone else happy, like a little 2-year-old. I don't know if you're like me, but it's kind of sad. Sometimes we prefer to make other people happy more than ourselves. So what's weird about B is it's not a full page. It's quite a bit cut off in order for the center dot to meet the center dot there. The lines are what we're going to have to reference here, but if I do that, A doesn't fit B, so there's definitely a problem in the pattern. So we want to take this below. Tipping. I don't know if she had a software issue. Oh boy, you guys, So the only thing that's going to stop me today is thunder. See, and this is not right. So it's like that's supposed to be right there with no overlap. Or this page printed small. See if I have another B. I got one B. Definitely B is off. It's like it needs to be there. So the dot, but further out. So that's about where it needs to go, but no, it doesn't line up here. This is way off up here. I must have something off. I'm ready to get, I'm feeling frustrated. I feel like I should just kind of teach you the techniques instead of trying to make the pants and have a talk with her to find out what's going on and pick this up another day, or maybe do an actual pre-recorded video for you on it, because I don't want to embarrass her either. So this is what's going on. Page B is not the right size. So, and I printed it. I just printed it. So I'm going to try printing that page again. And if it's not right, I'm going to just show you the techniques that I was going to teach you. And then I'll pick this back up. Or I can show you how I will adjust to it. You probably would like that, wouldn't you? Pat, you already have it. Did you put your pattern together yet, Pat? Yeah, I'm going to go try printing B again, you guys. So, let's see. I usually give you top to look at. Well, I'll do that. Shouldn't take long. It's only one page. Be right back. That didn't take too long, did it? It's so weird. I hope it's right. It'll make me so happy if it's right. It's probably right. She probably tests all her patterns. So for some reason, my printer did not print that particular page the right size. Very bizarre. Yay! I'm so happy for her. Oh, don't feel sorry for me, Fiona. This is just... I'd have had it all cut out and figured out before I ever went live if my microphone didn't go out. It must have been meant to be for me to show you what possibly could go wrong. Still a little bit off, but not enough to make it matter. All this for the smallest piece. Could have stopped already, but I want to show you how to save your pattern and only use it once. So you don't have to go through this taping more than once. There's an A. I just need to stick A on top of there. This one's off. Oh, you can see the letter A looks a little smaller. I must have mixed them up even though I tried not to. It's just the printer should not have resized it on either one of these printouts, so I'm confused. Come on, give me another A. Give me an A. Give me an A. Give me an A. Give me a B. I neglected to measure this one. This is so weird. It's all right. Oh, you know what it is? I didn't drink all my coffee. I'm going to mute and take a sip here. And I needed my coffee today because we had 4 a.m. in the morning thunder and lightning that felt like the whole house was going to come down. And my dog, Chase, who will now probably come to me because I said his name, was terrified. So he woke me up and kept me awake. Cut this one off. How about you, Amy? Did you have thunder and lightning at 4 a.m. as well? Because Amy lives down in Phoenix and I'm up in the Prescott area of Arizona, in case you don't know that. Large snap lock bags on building clips on a pegboard. That's a good idea. My design wall is getting closer to being done, you guys. I mean, it's already, I just needed to organize in here, and I did that, and I almost hung it so that I'll be able to just pull down behind me and stick something like this up on it, and but then I'll have to have a new, I think she's talking about clips. I had one here the other day. But I cleaned, so I put it in the office. Are they the metal clips that have the little wire, metal clear wire or silver wires that open up, and then a black like triangular, and they're really strong? They're used in office work, and they have a really, really tight hold. Is that what you're talking about? Because I think now you got everybody curious. What is a bulldog clip? Almost done with the boring part. Is it worth it? I don't know. We don't have to go to the store to buy the pattern. We don't have to wait. That's the biggest thing. We can just print it out and start. The problem is I always make my own patterns, so I don't have a lot of experience printing out other people's patterns. Okie dokie. And I don't think the size I chose is even going to go here, but I want you to see what I'm going to do to save this pattern as a, looks like it would fit me. I guess I'm a 12-year-old size in height. How short are your legs, you guys? It would definitely fit me in length. I don't know about height or waist. Happy Thursday, everybody. What are you guys making for dinner? I want to know, those of you who are in the East Coast, or how about anyone here from Australia or the UK? What did you have for dinner? And for those of you lurking in the background, afraid to join in on the text, hello. Isn't it nice to see that I struggle too? It's worth it. Because this morning we had a conversation, right, Pat? And then tonight I'm making it. And I could never have done that because I couldn't just go and buy this pattern. And this is what happens if you guys actually call every time I say, you guys can tell me what you want me to do. Just let me know. And she let me know. Yay. Hi, Chase. Are you afraid? Oh, the thunder. I know. Hopefully it won't get bad. Because if it does get bad... Just like the reason the mic wasn't working, and because our power went out. So if the power goes out, I'm going to end. So just so you know, I won't try coming back on because I can ruin all of my equipment. We get really bad thunder and lightning storms here. It's so funny because there's a lot of new people to the area, and they are commenting and going, "It was so loud," and it's like they've never experienced rain or thunder like we have. And it is something else. First year I was here, I was quite impressed. This is a product that we offer called Hold Light, and it is a pattern drafting stabilizer and perfect for stretch fabric. So hopefully we will be able to keep going. Despite the thunder, I don't know if you guys were able to hear it. But last time I was on, we had some thunder and some rain. We have a lot of flooding up in Flagstaff. Shiny side to the iron, which means you don't want to draw on this side of it, which is the matte finish on the stabilizer. And it's very, very lightweight. It's the stabilizer at creativefeet.com with the hummingbird on the label. This is... interesting. And something fell behind the drawer, and I can't close two of the drawers. And getting those drawers out of the assembly has always been really challenging. So that also happened right before we went live. It's just one of those days. So shiny side to the iron, which means shiny side up for drawing on. And then you can just trace the pattern right onto this, and you iron it to the stretch fabric. It will then stop the fabric from stretching while you sew it together, eliminating any chance of puckering or distortion of the fabric, despite the fact that we're not going to use a serger. This also works with a serger, except for this stabilizer will stay inside of that stitch. So if you don't want to hear any crinkling sound in the garment, then you don't want to use this with the serger. But with a regular sewing machine, you'll see. Okay, so this is preemie. That's too small. I chose the green. I chose the 2T size. Move this over. don't need to waste the stabilizer, and now let you see what I'm talking about. It has real good static cling to the paper, but you can use tape to anchor it all the way around so that it doesn't slip on you. I even got rid of markers. So I had so many markers in my sewing, in my drawer. So then we just, I knew I should have tested the markers before I got rid of them. I'll use this one. Hand down on the surface as you draw gives you a more stable hand. Oops. Here we go. I'm so glad she color coded these lines, you guys. So this is for a 2-month-old. Now we have a nice long straight line. There we go. Much easier when you use the ruler. Now if this says cut 2, then we have to cut 2 of that pattern. And so you want to look and see what it says on here. Everything is sideways. Hey Pat, you want to tell me how many pieces do I need? Pretty sure this is a 2-piece. And this is the stretchiest. So you lay the pattern piece down. The stretch fabric has one way it stretches more than the other. For those of you who don't have a lot of experience in sewing garments, it really does matter when you see these arrows. It is telling you how to lay the fabric out. So if you can see you have a selvage on this fabric just like you would on a cotton for quilting. And so you stretch it one way versus the other way, and one way will stretch more. So selvage to selvage is the stretchiest way. So when you see the selvage, it's going to stretch the most going from selvage to selvage. Any other things that they have written on the pattern, you're not going to save this. It will be destroyed after you use it, but you'll still have the paper beneath it. So, see, I usually write how many to cut on there. Cut 1 left and 1 right. Okay. So, does that mean, what does that mean? Does that mean she designed the pattern to have this lay down on the right side and then on the next one lay down on the wrong side, which it likely does? So that would mean that on the next piece, we would trace on the other side of the stabilizer so that we get opposites. Or what else can we do? If we don't want to have the stabilizer remain, we can just lay 2 pieces of fabric down and cut 2, one with the right side of the fabric facing up and one with the wrong side facing up, or have the fabrics folded. Right? Am I making sense, everybody? Yes, it is Hold Light, and it's the one with the hummingbird. So this is our Hold. There's something under there. There we go. This is our Hold Light stabilizer. And it is a little hummingbird on the label. So look for the hummingbird on the label and you will know that you have hold light. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. Oh, I know what I can do. So I don't want the ink on the side that irons to the fabric because it's a possibility that some of that ink will get on the fabric. So another way to draw the same image but have it be correct would be to fold this before we cut it. I was like, I know there's a way to do this, but I'm a little stressed out with the thunder going on outside, you guys. We still have to cut out the little bottom area to match. And I remember I already have that applique piece, and this is probably going to be a two-part video. I guess that's it, just those two pieces, the breeches, the backside, and that. Okay, so we can set that aside. And now I have that pattern to use again. Isn't that nice? Never have to ever cut it. There we go. Hope it's not too noisy on the microphone. Now we use hold light for a variety of different things, but one of my favorite things for using it for is drafting patterns. I use this on fabrics that fray, like lame and taffeta. Have you guys ever sewn taffeta before? And if you have sewn taffeta before, how was the experience for you? Because you can just look at it sitting on the table and it starts to fall apart on the edges. So this holds the fabric in place. That's part of the name being hold. And it's lightweight for lightweight fabrics. And there we go. I just needed to think a little bit. So now my scaredy cat puppy is beside me. So now we have reversed the pattern. I was going to show you, this is the caterpillar, and sometimes I don't want to have lines beneath it. I was going to show you how you could trace the pattern as well, set it on top of here and trace it onto another piece of paper and still save your pattern that way. But sometimes the lines are too much, so I have the edge-to-edge mat on the caterpillar with no lines on it. And then if you need some lines, well, you can have the smaller mat for the smaller size caterpillars sitting there. So if you need lines, you have it. If you don't want lines, you don't have it. And I thought I was going to need that. Turns out I didn't. So now I do want to make sure the hold light doesn't slip around when I cut this next one. I'm going to need to tape it really in a couple spots. Maybe 3. And sorry I'm such a slowpoke at tracing. A lot easier when you don't have a bunch of stuff underneath you. Really, Pat? It would have been nice to have this one just be able to print one size. Is that something that she came out with later? It wouldn't hurt to have like a couple, reference marks, just if you feel more comfortable having it, but you generally don't want to cut into stretch fabric. Instead, you cut out and then you cut that off afterward. Cutting into it does create a weak area in the garment. Okay. Another nice thing about these mats is you can spin them around. I have a whole bunch of things I've dropped on my dog, and he's just still laying there. So I think this would be the left leg. And this is the right leg. And then when you're going to cut your ribbing, the ribbing is based on the diameter of the wrist of the child, or the ankle in this case. She does have measurements in there, but I would measure the child. And then once again, there's the not as stretchy way and the really, really stretchy way. So you always want to utilize the stretch as if it was elastic. So we want to make sure that you have a piece the size of the child. I don't have a child here to measure. I want a grandchild, and we just got to wait for my kids to get along. Never mind. I don't want to push them before they're ready, right? But boy, am I ready to be a grandma. I told Pat, and then you'll see me sew a lot of kids stuff. So one length to one length is half of, or this is one leg, right? So this is the side of the leg. And then the crotch being deeper on one side than the other. So the actual leg is what you see right there, right? So if you cut a piece and it is smaller than that by a certain amount, then when the child wears it, it stretches, and then it comes back and grabs hold of their leg, and it will gather up the fabric. Follow the pattern for that. So now I need to cut this out, but I'm not going to cut this pattern out until it's on the fabric. So we'll get all the pieces ready, and then I'll start appliquing, and then we'll see if the thunder and lightning is going to pass us by. I should gather the instructions now, because I have a tendency just to start sewing because I kind of know the order to sew things. It's kind of like the principles. Some things are closer than others. Like when you applique, you want to sew the pieces that are furthest away. We're not using a serger, so we're going to be following the instructions for a sewing machine. And I was pleased to see that she knows the science. So you can trust her instructions to telling you how to sew on stretch fabric. 2, 3. Not all the pages have numbers. So that's my other issue. And that's probably because some of these didn't print right. But I printed one whole pattern. 2, 3. So this is probably... One of the things you need is 1/2 inch elastic. And the Sequins and Ribbon Foot will allow you to sew it in a little bit different than what she has here. On this page, she has the cuffs and the waistband measurements. So I'm doing a 2T, and the cuff is 5 by 7.25. But really, you should be buying her pattern to get all these details. Do this. I printed the whole thing out. I should have one really good printout. 2, 3. Have any of you ever made a pattern like this before? It had little ruffles on the tush. So we have so weird how some of these printed. Oh well. I know I'm not gonna have any trouble sewing this, so we'll just set these aside, and we need to cut our cuff pieces, and in those we don't use the hold light because we think of or treat those like a piece of elastic. So we want to get, this is the applique, and it's going to be based on that tush page I printed out. Oh my goodness. I suggest stapling the pattern together as soon as it comes off the printer and save yourself some heartache. I'm hoping that one of these butterflies will be the right size. I don't know if you could see through flannel with this. We'll see. Be something if you can. Oh wow, I can. So this butterfly right here, I'm trying to see if it will stay within this piece. And to make it easier, I should cut that out. Because before you sew the pants, you gotta applique or do whatever you're gonna do to the back panel. And the back panel is what you see right here on the pattern. This little blue section there. And there's some really cute ideas. Those of you who quilt, you can quilt the butt, the bottom. You didn't make ruffles? You did make the pattern? I thought you said you hadn't made this one yet. Since this is really dark right here, I don't know if it's the right butterfly. Hopefully I got one that will fit. So when you buy the pattern, this part is half of the pattern, and so I just made it one whole pattern piece. And it fits, but I don't know if it leaves enough of a seam allowance. I hope we got at least one butterfly that'll fit. Let's see here. If not, I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this fabric 1/4 inch bigger because it's not going to affect the pattern more than 1/4 inch, and that won't make it fall off the child or anything. Now you could have chosen a pattern piece. Where did I take my rotary cutter? Of course I have a lot of rotary cutters, as you know. I made this bag just so that I didn't have to go looking for them when I couldn't find one. So I'm going to make a guesstimate right now and cut bigger all the way around. Because it doesn't have to, it's a butterfly, right? It's not, this isn't going to be the whole thing. I was going to have it applique onto the yellow. So I have another option here. There's always a way. So I'm going to cut the piece the size of the pattern. However, I can cut the butterfly out. So this wasn't my intent to make the bottom piece a piece of fabric. It was my intent to actually applique for you guys on stretch So I became an affiliate of a couple other pattern companies as well. Okay, so we could have that be the butt or the tush. I'm trying to think of the breeches. Or I can cut this butterfly out, but now I can see how little area I have for that butterfly to be appliqued on. So I have an option to cut this butterfly out exactly to size and iron it on to the yellow, or make this the actual pattern piece. Although I really thought it would be cute to have it be the tush, and then this be on it. So this is usually when I get you guys to vote. It's possible I'll have power outage and we'll have to stop no matter what. This would be the fastest way, is to use this as the tush. The other option would be for me to go ahead and try to applique this, and if we lose power, we lose power, and at least you'll have the applique. What do you guys want more? The garment sewn or the applique? Is the applique on stretch to stretch the most intriguing part of what I was going to show today? Vote on that while I iron this to my other fabric. I can't believe he's just laying there. This was all draped over him. The one good thing about Tinkerbell losing her hearing is that she sleeps through the lightning now. So remember, we're going to have this. Whew, I sure hope it's big enough. It's been a long time since I made children's clothes and I left without the pattern. I did it. So with 2 layers of fabric together, we could have just used one pattern piece and then cut the pattern pieces out, but then one piece would not have the stabilizer fused to it. And it's the stabilizer that eliminates all stretch. Phew, it's just, you know what it is? Us Arizonans, we're used to dry heat, and now with the monsoon, it's like I'm in Florida or Hawaii right now. You want to see the applique? Better Days is never shy about asking for what she wants. So that's 1 vote, 2 votes, 3. These scissors need to be sharpened. I do have a sharpener, a professional sharpener. So shiny side to the iron on both of these, and I'll leave it ironed, and if we have time, this would be the last thing that I do. Chase is running right now in his sleep, and his foot's pushing against my toe. Sorry, honey. I'm sorry. Phew-wee. Bye, Fiona. I feel like I am always a little bit late to say goodbye to someone who has to leave. It could be better this way. Oh, I'm thinking of it wrong. I had plenty of room. This is why you write your arrows, so you don't lose your mind. I had everything right. Maybe it's time to finish that coffee. So the foot that we'll use for the sewing is the Satinedge foot, and the Satinedge foot will allow me to use an overlock stitch. If any of you are not familiar with what an overlock stitch is, it's a stitch that finishes the edge of the fabric and also sews a seam. And when you're looking at your stitch patterns on your sewing machine, they will specify whether or not it's a stretch overlock stitch or a non-stretch overlock stitch. The difference between them is the stretchy one will have a zigzag stitch for the seam. If you use an overlock stitch on your sewing machine and it has a straight stitch for the seam, that is a vulnerable stitch and it is likely to break open. I got a piece of tape here. There we go. I want to make sure it's nice and secure wherever there is a line. And don't use steam because the steam will just push out from the sides and make it more difficult. And then you're able to cut. There we go. Oh, my other scissors are not in the room. I don't want to bring the iron out twice, and I'm hopeful that I'll have time to do this. So what you're thinking of is how we usually use the whole bite. And we use the whole bite as, oh, I just undid it. But you can see that one, if you do accidentally peel it up, now you can put it back down again. I'm just going to cut that out. So we generally use this as a backing for applique, for those of you who are not familiar with it. In this case, we're using it as a pattern. And what it does is it locks the stretch in the material. I'm just going to get this separated at least. And then when you sew these fabrics along the seam, it has no stretch at all. It locks the stretch. So it's similar to sewing cotton instead of t-shirt material, which that is what this is like. It's like a lightweight t-shirt. I had some minky that I could have used, but Pat wanted me to use regular t-shirt or stretchy fabric. And this is what you'd consider a cotton t-shirt type material. So it has some synthetic behavior in it, some synthetic to make it stretch, but it has the softness of cotton. These are not what these scissors are for. These are the Applique scissors. I didn't have my fingers in the right spot. Oh, I'm not showing you. So these are the scissors, and this is the way my hand should have been, and I had my hand like this, and I was not cutting. So once I put my fingers in the right position, then they were able to sew. Or cut, not sew. So just so you can see, now this would be the same spot you'll want to do your ribbing. But she didn't put these reference marks in the pattern, so I would just not do it. Make sure that that is secure. Yes, this makes stretch fabric, not stretch fabric while you sew with it, and then after you're done sewing, you pull it off, and you have pulled off sewing something without stretching it, even though it's stretch fabric, without worrying about any skip stitches or stretched out seam allowances, so you have a much neater appearance. And we'll do that on the right leg as well. Sorry, I don't have a helper here to do the next one. Make sure that it's nice and bonded to the edge so it stays. And then set it aside for cooling. Now I have used that for some of the most difficult fabrics you'll ever sew. And it's not that I don't like overlock machines, but I did invent the Satinedge Foot so that we could do everything you could do with a serger with your regular sewing machine. Not everyone can afford a serger. And also, how many of you have a serger and are intimidated by it? Any of you have yours in the closet and never use it once you took the classes and went home and then forgot some of the things you learned? They are fantastic sewing machines, and I am in no way criticizing the serger. Just giving you all an option so that you're not left out of anything that you see people do with an overlock machine and a cover stitch machine. If you're using a cover stitch machine technique, we just use a double needle. The two needles share the bobbin, and they end up becoming very stretchy, and it looks just like a cover stitch. If you're just joining us today, I am the inventor of the Creative Feet, and this is another one of my products. This is our Hold Light Stabilizer, found at creativefeet.com. And what it does, I'm nervous that Chase is going to knock that iron on himself. It's better if you wait for it to cool before you move it around. Otherwise it starts to come apart. Oh wow, it's really coming down out there right now, you guys. After saying wait till it cools before you move it, I moved it before it cooled again. As you can see, it doesn't take much to get it to bond. Your serger's too old. Yeah, Walmart doesn't give you classes. So I always recommend when people say, what brand of sewing machine should I buy? I say, well, buy the sewing machine from the dealer that you like, because you really don't buy a sewing machine. You buy or marry a dealer. And if you don't like your dealer, then you'll probably never sign up for classes. And when you buy something like this from a box store like Walmart or Costco or any of the others, generally you don't get lessons with it. Now we're going to be offering the Eversewn machines. And I'm going to be doing a how-to video for each machine. We won't be offering the service or the labor to fix it here, but they have you send it to them for repair. And as time goes and I have time to teach the serger, I will teach the serger as well for that. The very first foot I invented was a beading foot for the overlock machines. And a major company copied the design after buying it from me and ran with it. So that is when I realized, I'm not holding the scissors right again. That's when I realized I was an inventor, and so I kind of thank them for that, because I then got patents and treated my business differently. But the Eversewn machine, I have it on the floor here and should be filming the how-to video this weekend. And we will announce one model. We'll probably announce all the other models as well, but I'll be getting them in one at a time, filming them. And I'm going to paint on one of each models and have you guys bid to get a painted machine. It won't be painted as elaborately as the one that you see here, but that is my intention, so that I can do a how-to video on each, and all that will be done on the machine is that how-to video. And then I'll probably be switching to the Eversewn machine on my set. And the machine that we're going to be introducing first is the 30X. And it is teal in color, kind of like what you see here already. There we go. So any of you use your serger? There's got to be at least one of you that likes to use your serger. It is humid in Florida. I'll never forget my first time in the summer in St. Louis, Missouri. Oh my goodness. I got all ready for work. I was still in my 20s. It was the beginning of my company. And I stepped outside, and just long enough to just literally step outside with both feet. And I had sweat dripping down my back. And I was blown away with the humidity. So now we're pretty much not too far from being ready. Now I'm going to prepare the tush. And we're going to go ahead and applique, because everyone said they wanted applique. So I am going to fuse. And here's the thing. When you applique on a stretch garment, and if you were to lock it with a stabilizer, it will then lock the fabric, and then when a child sits and everything else about the garment stretches but that area, well, that causes the fabric to tear around the applique. So we want to do this in such a way that doesn't lock the fiber at all. And that's the trick. You seal the edges, Lorinda? Do you use fray check? Before I applique this on, I'm going to use our Fuse and Fuse. And the reason it's okay to use it is because it's so soft that it doesn't hinder the stretch in the fabric. And you won't be able to detect it in the clothing. Our Fuse and Fuse is our fusible on both sides stabilizer. And it is the one with a dragonfly on the label at creativefeet.com. And it has a paper that is printable on one side, and then the fusing or the double fuse is on the opposite side. So the pattern piece that I'm going to be creating is not the size of the pocket, but rather it's the butterfly. And so I didn't cut the butterfly yet. I can take the butterfly and iron wrong side to the fusible. I just need to make sure that the fusible is not sticking out past the overall piece. So if I were to just iron like this, I would literally be ironing the fuse to my iron. And it's really cute, but difficult to tell right side from wrong. I think this is right side. So we want like this. And one way to handle this would be to take this pattern and trace around it. Whoops. And I want to come in about 1/4 inch in from that. If you don't know, we do have a free online school at create.clarerowley.com, and it is where you can post pictures of your projects. So when you go to Create with Clare Rowley, you can see, who is that posted this? Fiona Disavia. That's a pretty last name. She finished the book. Oh, okay, so this is a book cover that she created. And so this is a social media site, pretty much, for you guys to get to know each other better. These are my different notifications that I haven't been able to respond to yet. You will have notifications up here too of your own, and you'll have messages from people. If someone writes me a private message, I do get it privately. So if you ever see my picture in the circle on the site, you click on it, it opens up a say hello to Clare It doesn't look like this. It does say hello. And then you can write anything you want to me privately. If you have any questions regarding anything, if you're shy about posting things publicly. Otherwise, inside of here we have the creator groups. And inside of the creator groups, we have a Fabrically Speaking live show group, and that is for those of you who like to participate in the live. Any patterns that I offer will be inside of this group. Now, this is not a pattern that I offer. This is a pattern sold by somebody else. So the link will be provided as it is in the description of below the video. The topics areas where you find patterns. So you can see patterns and documents for any of the classes or lessons that I've taught in any of the sessions of Fabrically Speaking Live. Go back to the network. Those of you who are in the VIP, we're going to do another private VIP live. I'll let you know the date. And if you guys feel that Saturday is not working for you, let's pick another day. I'm going to then change, after that, I'll change the VIP group. But I don't want to, I just haven't had time to change it yet, as you're all aware if you're watched before. So back to this. None of these stabilizers that I'm using today wash away. Whoops, got to cut in 1/4 inch in. Wrong side. And if I fold this in half, it always helps better to identify where the center of the butterfly is, and then you can slide up. So because you're kind of working blind here. And this is the paper side up. Once again, no steam. And the reason you don't use steam on a paper-backed product is because paper is a solid and steam will shoot out the sides and you're likely to be burned from the steam. So when I was speaking to you on the phone, Pat, I was talking about our wash away stabilizer, and that I will be, as we assemble the garment, I'll talk more about that. Now, this is a very thick fabric. No, do not turn off yet. However, fleece is also a melty. You can actually melt that. So I have this set at wool, not at cotton. I'm like, is that too hot for that? Maybe not. Now on the wool side, I could switch to steam and shoot a little steam through. Now I decide how much butterfly. Because I can cut this down a little bit. I think I'm just going to go for it, and we'll go to the actual blue area of the butterfly. The reason I'm using these scissors is because this is paper on the back, and paper wears out your scissor. So the way that this particular fabric will be able to stretch is because of the lightweight nature of our fuse and fuse. If you were to use a heat and bond product, if you look at it, it's not a web, it's a solid, and it locks the fiber and won't let it stretch. So I will show you that. And where, if this were, you could also applique this with the overlock or with the Octi-Hoops and do free motion applique. So there's more than one way to do things. If you find it too difficult to do something with a foot, then we use the Octi-Hoops, because the Octi-Hoops eliminate the need for a foot and allow us to do things we could not do ever before, unless you got out your hand sewing needle. So I'm going to show you what I mean in a minute here. All right, here we go. Here we go. I got a little carried away listening to the conversation because it's been so long since I talked about what I'm hearing in my ear right now. There we go. So now we have a butterfly. And we should back this with the hold light. I'm going to show you here up close. So when you buy Heat and Bond or other products, they have it's kind of a shiny all over coating that they've applied to the paper. But what you see here in ours is a web. And because it's a web, the light's too bright. Oops. Okay. So you see how this is a web? So it's actually not bonding 100% of the surface. And so it actually has the ability to stretch. Does that make sense? So I don't like Heat and Bond. I haven't used it since we developed this. It wasn't until I tried that and I couldn't find any more webbing like this that I decided to create our own version of the fusible webbing for applique, and it is night and day. This will hold, the fabric will hold really well, and it won't lift up after you've sewn it, and it doesn't transfer onto the needle like you do with the others because there's no adhesive in it, even though it's fusible. Watch your tail. Okay. So how do we get the fabric not to get all out of shape is the hold light again. The hold light is going to be on the yellow fabric, not on the butterfly. And just as before, it's better to cut your hold light larger than you need it to be and cut it after you have the pattern piece on top. I have this long hair right here. And I gotta pick the right side. How you can determine which side's right is they fold the fabric. So the outside where the fold is sticking up is the right side of the fabric. And then the pattern does call for the tush piece to be stretchy. So we want it to stretch across this way from selvage to selvage as before. I didn't create the pattern. I didn't trace a pattern on the hold light of this, but I can do that now. And always shiny side to the iron. And no matter how many times I tell myself shiny side to the iron, I have been known to mess up. There we go. And this is the stretch. And it's stretchy, so it's the way that stretches the most. So I'm not going to cut the hold light to the size, but a little bit bigger for the initial ironing. Pull that pattern out, and this is the selvage side, so you can see the little holes poked in. I don't know if you can see those or not, but there are holes poked in on one side. You want to make sure you're not all the way up to those holes. So this is getting this to not stretch, but it's not removing the stretch, it's just holding the stretch in place with a very light hold, long enough for us to do whatever we want on top of it. Wait for it to cool before you cut it to size. That's right, I still have one more thing to iron. It's easier to applique after, without it being small. So I'm just gonna cut it like this. And I'm gonna fold it, but we also have the cutter pillar to help position the butterfly. So I can easily see where the outer limits of that is, and we take this and remove the paper. You can see it's bonded really nicely to that. And then I can position it right on the tush pocket kind of thing. It would be kind of cute to have it as a pocket. So I could take it down, I could tip it, you can position it however you like, and you know you're in the right spot because you have the cutter pillar down there. And then we'd use the liquid-based glue, which is this is the water-soluble glue that I was talking about on the phone this morning. And we're going to use this to temporarily hold it so that it can't move. When I iron, I always forget that the mic's not here. So it's just a water-soluble stabilizer that's wet. So just a little bit, scat it around and kind of slide your finger over it and let it fall down, and just brush it to one side, and that's going to hold it in place. Chase, wait, do not move. There we go. And the same on this side. Now this is not going to be what holds this butterfly in place. However, I have done free motion applique using minky or using fleece fabric on a quilt, and all I used was this to hold it down, but that's because we're doing free motion. When you use a foot, you have to deal with the feed dogs interacting with the material. So that's when we need to use the fusible stabilizer. In the liquid based is just holding it down until I get the iron ready. It's a good rule of thumb to always lay a piece of fabric over the top. And you can shoot steam from the top. Remember, there's no paper on here anymore. You can't find your liquid-based glue? Oh no. Well, all I can tell you is I have several bottles in several locations. You cut your applique pieces on your Cricut. Our stabilizer works well in the Cricut. So now that's bonded well, and we're going to just double check this because it got hot and I used steam, and this is why you don't want to use steam on the back. So we'll turn steam off and re-secure the whole bite to this. If you're not moving things around as much as I am, you probably won't have it pull off like this. Come on. This will be another time when you can use our liquid base just to get it to behave. Get over there and stay put while I iron. Makes me wonder if the humidity up here is changing the behavior of things. Come on, open up. There we go. I'm ready to walk into a walk-in freezer, you guys. Yay, we get to sew. I was gonna say we're to the sewing part. I think we're gonna do a two-part. We'll do the applique, we've done this much, then next week I'll sew it all together. Sometimes it does take two parts. Tink. Want to say hi? Come here. You're scared too. Oh, I know. How dare there be thunder and lightning? Tinkerbell says hello, everybody. I know you want to be on the table, huh? That would be awesome. One time we had her on the table, but not when there's an iron. All right, I know it's getting scary out there. Okay, rules of thumb when sewing stretch fabric. What needle you should use is a stretch needle, and the stretch needle's anatomy is it's flatter than other needles. And it has a rounded tip so it doesn't cut through the fibers. Very important on stretch fabric that you don't cut those elastic fibers that run through it that make it stretchy. And you'll want to use a stretchy thread or a stretchy stitch, or both would be the ideal. And if you don't know there is such a thing as a stretchy thread, woolly nylon is used a lot in overlock machines. You can use woolly nylon in the bobbin on a regular sewing machine, and it adds tremendous stretch to the stitch. It also is very soft against a baby's skin. I'm so winded. I want to put my hair up in a ponytail. But I don't think I have a ponytail holder in here, do I? I did, but I cleaned everything out. I'm going to have a little more of my iced coffee. Maybe it'll chill me down. You guys drinking water? Make sure you drink your water. Conquering Mount Scrapmore with Brenda. That's a name. So you're hand quilting a couch throw. How nice. Sounds relaxing. We offer a stretchy thread that goes through the needle on your sewing machine and your overlock sewing machines. And you might not have been taught about it, as it was sold out for quite a while. There was a period of time where you couldn't buy nylon lingerie thread in the United States unless you bought gigantic cones of it. And so, yeah, you shouldn't be using woolly nylon in the needle, but logic tells you you need to use it in the needle, and sewing machines are like, no, I can't figure out where to go behind the needle. So the needle has that little scarf behind it, and when the needle goes down into the machine, the pointy hook comes around and picks the thread up. But woolly nylon is like yarn. It's all expanded and fluffy. So when the needle tries to get behind the woolly nylon, it stabs it and it gets all tangled up, and you'll have jamming machine. It's not a fun thing. So nylon lingerie thread is what has been used for ever since the 50s, the late 50s, early 60s, in the needle for stretch fabric. You guys didn't have access to it until the 70s. And it was my family that made it possible for you guys to get it in small spools. We actually contracted a company called Sew Art to wind them on small spools for us. So this is the original nylon thread made in the USA. So you know you're getting an American-made product, and it is fabulous. The qualities that it has is it stretches, and it stretches about 60% more than polyester. Well, polyester doesn't stretch at all. So it kind of expands before it snaps is a better way of putting it, as thread companies don't like to say it stretches. So basically what it is it has strength to it. So you can stretch it and then it comes back. It has memory. And you may be as old as I am and remember when they started selling pantyhose and they started calling it memory yarn. They say pantyhose, these are nylon pantyhose made with memory yarn. And it was because what they were trying to do is make the thread stretch and remember where to go back, so that you didn't end up with gathered up ankles, which we used to have in stockings before nylon thread was invented. And it was invented for parachutes during the war. Woodward Wilson contracted all the scientists to get together to make a synthetic rubber, and this came out of that whole science experiment. It's a really interesting history. Nylon lingerie thread has a melting point of 500 degrees. Cotton fabric has a burning point of 250. So you don't have to worry about melting this thread. You'll burn your fabric before you'll ever melt it. It's also used in boat seats, lingerie, bathing suits, leotards, sails. Well, now they use Kevlar for a lot of the outdoor furniture. But it was used in boat seats too, and car seats to sew the seams, because it would be able to withstand the stretching of the fabric beneath the tush of the adult sitting in the seat. So these are the threads that you can pick up at creativefeet.com. And when you wind a bobbin of it, you want to wind your bobbin slower than you normally would. I've already got a bobbin wound, and one full bobbin of this is the equivalent of winding about 70 bobbins of cotton quilting thread. So one bobbin lasts you a long time, but you want to wind it slow. If you don't, your plastic bobbins, that center core, can get hot, because if you wind your bobbin really fast, the action of the thread is that it stretches and comes back, stretches and comes back. And as it's being wound on your bobbin tension, because there is a tension, it actually is stretching the thread and making it go like that. And it starts to generate kind of like an energy, and it heats up. And it causes the center of plastic bobbins to shrink, and the top and the bottoms will pop off, or the bobbin may crack across the top, and people call it exploding bobbin. But the bobbin is not exploding. You just need to wind your bobbin slow. Half speed. If you can't wind it half speed, then only wind it half full. That won't allow it to get so hot that it will change. And just so you know, if you have a metal bobbin, you also have to wind it half speed. I had a Bernina bobbin, or a customer or student in my class, and she wound her bobbin at full speed, and she came up and she goes, I don't know whose bobbin this is, but it doesn't fit in my case. And it stuck out almost the size the bobbin is normally, that much taller. It had expanded the metal of the bobbin. And why is that possible? Because nylon thread is so strong, and that makes it perfect for stretch fabrics, for stretch garments, because we stretch garments out of shape, and we want our thread to also stretch and then come back. If you ever put a t-shirt on and you kind of stretch it around your hips and the thread breaks, they made that with polyester thread. If it doesn't stretch, they're using the right thread. They're using the nylon thread, lingerie thread in the needle, woolly nylon in the bobbin. And there's a little bit of the history of nylon and why you need it. So I'm going to use the Stretch 9014 needle. Actually, I wanted to use the 7511 for the applique, because I don't want to have big holes in this really thin t-shirt material. There are two different stretch needles. And if you have, I'm not used to that light being so harsh. So we have the 7511 and the 9014. Garment sewing, seams, this is what you want. Applique, elastic, you want the 9014. If you use this for your elastic, you're probably going to break needles. I always start from the left-hand side of all my packages so that I know which needle is the newest. It's always the one that's up there or on the front. These are the easiest ones to break because of the design that prevents them from skipping stitches and thread shredding from behind the needle. So I'm going to stitch around this. And what stitch would you like me to use? A blanket stitch or a satin stitch? Hurry up. Start typing. Satin stitch versus blanket stitch. And it'll take less time to sew a blanket stitch than it will to sew a... I'm sorry, I got distracted by a thought I had. I could show you how to use 2 threads through the eye of 1 needle. Let's just not push it too far. I think a blanket stitch would be a good option for this, But I'm going to use the lingerie thread in the bobbin so that the bobbin thread stretches. What did I do with that bobbin? Do you guys know where I put my bobbin? I just had it. Oh. I had it right here. It's starting to hail, you guys. Oh, hail. It's starting to hail. A few days ago, it hailed golf ball size hail up here. Some people had some really bad damage to their homes and their cars. Luckily, in my area, we just had rain. Okay, well, we have an agreement. And this is a 9014 stretch needle because that's what I did last. You knew where it was, Amy. I tell you, you always know what's going on. You'd be a great assistant. So nylon lingerie thread in the bobbin. And I'm using white because the fabric is yellow. We also have it in black. But for the applique, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use a polyester, a 40 weight, because I want it to show. I want to have it really show up on the butterfly. And the butterfly's fluffy, so it's going to be challenging for it to show up. I think I'm going to use pink because it's a really good contrast. I'll put this needle on. So the PolyFast 40 weight polyester is available at creativefeet.com. And this thread is really pretty. I picked up this fabric today at Joann's, by the way. So if you want to make this exact thing, these are current fabrics. And the other nice thing about the stretch needle is usually you can get away with using your needle threader, but mine is just a little bit out of adjustment. Next week, this machine will not be on the set. It's going into the doctor. And I have repainted the ocean machine because I didn't like the paint job I did before. So you'll be able to see that one again next week, unless the Eversun machine video is done. Okay, so the Satinedge Foot is the foot that I'm going to use for this. And it does come sold separately, or you can buy it in a set. This is our educational special, and it has all 3 of the creative feet. Sorry, that light is so harsh. So it has the Satinedge pearls and piping and sequins and ribbon foot and our accessory guides for the sequins and ribbon foot in this package. And this is our USB version, which has a flash drive inside of here. And the Satinedge Foot and all of the adapters and the guides are in here, and all 3 of the feet are inside of here. So this is the Satinedge Foot, and it has a wire connected to the guide. And when I designed this, I designed it for a woman who was born blind and deaf, and her name was Mary. She was taking tailoring at the Braille Institute. And what she wanted was to be able to use the overlock machine. And I was like, there's no way I actually talked to her in a computer kind of thing. Actually, it wasn't a computer, it was a digital readout. It's a story in itself. So basically, I told her there was no way I was going to put her on a serger. because there were knives and things that swung around that could hurt her. So she typed into this little device and went, I know you'll figure something out. And that is what made me come up with the Satinedge Foot. So that's a little bit of the history of it. So I'm selecting the blanket stitch. And since this camera angle is not perfect, so this is the wire on the foot. And this is the fabric's edge. And we'll just pretend this is fabric here. And the needle is going to go right here. So the distance won't be this big. This is exaggerated. You're going to barely see that your needle is off the edge of the fabric. So this is the fabric. That little dot's the needle, and this is the wire that's inside the foot. But you can see the opening of the foot. We have this little bar that comes across and goes like that. And then you have your ski, and this is where it attaches to the sewing machine. And then there's the post and the guide, and it comes down here, and the wire sticks out from the guide. So that's what's going on right here. We're still alive, right? I do like the sound of hail hitting the roof. What does that say about me? Maybe I can get a better. It's such fluffy fabric, so you can't see as well. I want to see the stitch, but I got to think now. Can I? What size should the stitch be based on that little point? So I'm gonna have it be a blanket stitch, and the blanket stitch looks like this. So it's got a line on the right side, and then lines going out to the left. If you have a sewing machine that does not have that stitch, you can take a blanket or a blind hem stitch that looks like this and shorten the stitch length down as short as you possibly can. You also may have a shell tack on your machine, but this would require a mirroring capability, because this one allows you to have the stitch swing out to the right. So if you have the ability to mirror your stitches on your machine, which means flip them over, you can use a shell tuck stitch as well. Shell tuck stitch is the least violent to the fabric. So I have my machine set on the blanket stitch, bringing my needle down at a 3.5 millimeter width. And I'm bringing my needle down and seeing that it is in between the wire on the foot and the edge of the fabric. And I do that by placing the needle right off the edge of the fabric and then bring the needle over to it. Computerized sewing machines, when you turn them on, some of you do not have a computerized machine, so this is an important topic that we're going to discuss right now. When you have a stitch showing on a computerized machine, it will always put the needle in the most important spot. So on the blanket stitch, it is right off the edge of the fabric. So you know that that very first stitch when you bring it down will be the one that goes right off the edge. And you don't want to push on the pedal or use your needle down button. You want to turn the hand wheel so that you don't all of a sudden hit the pin on the foot, or the wire, or the guide pin, so that metal part that we move on the foot. You want to turn the hand wheel always towards you and bring the needle down so that you know that it's right off the edge of the fabric, and then you turn the nut moving the guide pin over to the needle until it literally touches. And I am meaning the word literally as it is meant to be understood as the literal thing that you want to do. So when your needle is lowered, it is at its widest point of the needle. The tip of the needle is actually halfway from either side of the needle. So when the needle is lowered, you are safe to bring that wire over until it touches it. But you don't want to keep turning the nut and bend the needle. So I want to make sure that you just bring it to the point of touching to be sure that you haven't bent it, especially if you have the need for glasses. You want to wear your glasses for sure when setting up the foot. And then I bring in the wire over to the needle, and then I turn the hand wheel and make sure that I didn't deflect the needle. Oop, I did. I deflected the needle. So I have that opportunity to move the wire over. So once again, you bring the needle down, and if the needle is starting to deflect in either direction, you know that you need to move the guide a little bit more. Now this nut and screw assembly is engineered to give you very, very accurate adjusting capability. All right, here we go. We are finally sewing, and it's hailing. I always like to start where there isn't a focal point, like not here, off to one side or the other. But we can also, as long as you have about 6 inches of thread, when you are finished sewing, you pull this with a hand sewing needle to the bottom. My machine has a knot stitch, so I'm going to go ahead and use the knot stitch. And then we begin sewing. Now you notice where my hands are. You don't see me doing this. You want to look where you're going. Put my glasses back on. I'm just a little stressed about the weather. And go slow. You know, you don't have to go fast. A lot of people rush. And what I'm looking for is that my needle stays off the edge. I can lower the needle, but always lowering it off the edge, and then bring the foot over. You can focus on the white part of the guide. So this is how to do blanket stitch applique using the Satinedge Foot on stretch fabric. Now I'm going to bring the needle down again because I'm feeling the need to move the fabric. But you see how little I touch? This is why you won't see any puckers when I'm finished, because when you do this while you applique, you actually stretch your fabric out of place, kind of like kneading dough when you're making bread. Yes, when I said small, I meant narrow, because we can adjust our blanket stitch to whatever. Well, no, I can. Not all machines will allow you to adjust your blanket stitch. This is where how much you spent on the machine comes in. So now I'm coming into a inside curve, and see how my needle was off the edge in that? I'm going to back it back up and bring my needle back down, doing it with the hand wheel, not the needle down button. Just a little bit into the fabric, lift, and then swing it all the way around. Now I want the stitch though. I want a stitch to go. So we have a point like this. And so far, this is how far I've sewn. Now if I turn and I start bringing it around to go here, I will have nothing right there. I want one more stitch to go there to make it look pretty. And in order to do that, you have to mess around with the machine. You have to do it by hand and make sure, because see now the stitch is going to want to go back again. So I lift and bring it back and try to keep it in that point. Have to do several stitches because the blanket stitch goes forward, back, over, and then forward, back, and then over. So we are making it do all the forward and backs in one spot. Now I can see it's going over and back. And now I'm good to go on lifting and spinning it around. So that's how you handle an inside curve on a blanket stitch. Watching the front of the foot. Ignore the sewing machine needle. Stop with the needle down, always in the outside swing when you lower it on outside curves. Now I think it's going to go too close. So I'm going to walk it a little bit forward. So the blanket stitch is a little tricky because of its behavior, but if you have your speed control set low, you'll be less likely to not like the results when you're finished. And never have it automatically set to stop with the needle down, because what will happen is it will go too far and you'll end up having to rip stitches out. And wear your glasses if you need them. So it's a little slow go, but it's such a beautiful result. So now I need it to go back because I went too far. There we go. And I'm turning just a little bit because the V is not as dramatic as the other inside curve was. And bring the needle down. I got a little of the fleece on my tongue. Got distracted, messed up a little bit. Needle down and around. Can you see how pretty it looks? I got the focal point here. We'll see it in a minute. This would be a time to use your speed control and go slow. I'm deliberately letting some things happen so I can talk about it when you can see better. You won't have to stop as often with the Satinedge foot as you would with an applique foot. The hail stopped. Hopefully that will continue. Okay, back to that kind of corner that I had. So I'm going to pull back and lower it with the hand wheel. Always turn the hand wheel toward you. It's going to go off in the wrong direction. So this is where I wanted it to be. Oopsie, I forgot about keeping it in one spot. We'll see if I can hide my mistakes. It's mistake day for Claire. Oh, I could actually, and should, and will, reduce the width of the blanket stitch right here. And it's just because this is just too small of a turn. So the stitch is going to end up covering the whole bottom of the butterfly if I don't. And when I do that, you check to make sure you don't have to move the wire. What, I go the wrong? Oh, I didn't do the right thing. I forgot. I mean, I reduced the length instead of the width. Oh well. This is how you learn. You learn from my mistakes. Whenever you change the width of any stitch, you will always have to change the wire's location. So you got to kind of be aware of what you're doing. So that's not going to be very pretty. But you're going to learn more this way. Come on, machine. The heck happened? I had set the stitch to the wrong part of the stitch before. If I can make these mistakes, so can you. So it's a good idea to read the directions. Now I got to go back to 3.5 width, or it's going to look different. And I got to do what? Got to make sure I turn the needle again and make sure that the wire is on the right spot. All this for a pair of pants for a child. I think it's that length. Yeah, it was too... There we go. Now we're going. Zoom, zoom. you'll be really happy when you're on those long stretches, and you might get tempted to not care when you go around the small turns. This machine will not let you cheat. It won't let me go back and undo a stitch with the hand wheel, which is a bad habit anyway. Did I put you all to sleep? Yeah, be awake, be aware. Don't start getting sleepy and lazy when you're doing the blanket stitch. It's definitely not something to do when you're impatient. Satin stitch is a lot faster in the actual function of the stitch, but the stitch does take longer to sew. You'll start to get the rhythm of your machine. You can see how it does that forward and back movement. I think we want one more stitch here. And down and turn. This is a part turn. And needle down. But you can see how beautiful the fabric is staying. There's no puckers at all. I don't know how much my head has been in the way. I try to be cognizant of my head. Needle down, and now we spin around. Now I focus on the front of the foot. Mostly I'm watching the guide, making sure that I'm not climbing on the fabric or walking the foot away from the edge of the applique. Not focusing on the needle strikes. They'll just make you nervous, give you some anxiety if you look at the needle striking the fabric. So this is back to that V, where I'm going to have to keep walking the foot back until that stitch is swinging to the left. There we go. One stitch and lower it. You notice I usually just put one finger down. I'm not ever hands down, just like the edge of this fingernail, and I place it so that it will spin around on curves. If you don't have a fingernail, you can use one of my pressers and just place the presser down like that, and you're just kind of pushing in one spot, and it will help the fabric spin around, so you won't have to stop as often. It's also better on your finger than using your fingernail to use something like this. Another thing that you can use to spin around curves faster is take a pin and you just kind of place the pin down like that. So got a ball head pin here, and just push it down about an inch away from the left side of the foot. And then as the feed dogs pull the fabric through, it is kind of forced to follow around in a circular pattern. What's really important about the Satinedge Foot is it eliminates me watching the needle. So while I am kind of watching the needle assembly go up and down, I'm not focused on the tip of the needle. I'm able to rely on the guide. The guide is where the needle is because I set up the foot to touch the needle. This is another inside corner, which is the slowest of all of the parts of the blanket stitch. Just a little bit close on your fingers to use a pin. Better to use the presser because it's longer. Or if you have a stylus, you can use a stylus for when you're doing this. It's definitely easier than your finger. And bring the needle down, lift and spin. So see how that's, you could also probably use the, now that I think about it, this is one of the tools that you get for the Applique for turning fabric under that we offer. They're called the rods, Applique rods. Now this is a nice, another function to use them for. It's a little bit smaller. And I like that it's not a pokey point, especially on stretch fabric. You don't want to poke holes and then have it stretch and then fall completely apart because we poked it. Because one of the tools is a fine point. I think that's still rounded enough to where you could use it, this end. Yeah, definitely. Much more relaxing, easier to hold. Another use for Applique's rods. And she designed these to be like your fingers, to replace your fingers for turning fabric under and positioning your fabrics. So another rod that we have is the, like whenever you feel like you need to put 2 fingers down, these come as a set. So you have the spatula, a pointy point, the 2 prongs. This would be like 2 fingers down, then you tip it up and you got 1 finger down. So this one might even be even better for this. And I have my elbows down. And see I'm actually sitting like this. And I have this microphone right in front of me. But my elbows and shoulders are resting on the table. And I'm able to use this and not have my elbows up. And I'm not having to get my face really close, nor could I with the microphone and this light in between me and the needle. I'm actually about 4 inches further away from the needle than I should be. And how you determine how close you should be to the needle or to the foot is take a piece of paper with writing on it and how far away from you do you need it to be to focus, to read. And that is how far you should be sitting from your needle. Otherwise you squint and you're not really seeing better by doing that. So I'm really liking the 2 finger prong side of the Applique for this. Is the most relaxed I've been doing a blanket stitch with my fingers not having to do any work. So, okay, I can get away with 1 more stitch. Lift and spin it around. It's also good because you don't feel as much like controlling the fabric. And the hold light makes the fabric slippery. So the stabilizer that we use for the pattern is the same one we use to make the fabric on the back lock while we do the blanket stitch. You should start being able to see the stitch now in the focus, maybe not. But I'll be holding it up so you can get a really good look in a moment. Yay, this part's easy. Think about that when you choose your applique patterns. The ones that have lots of ins and outs will be slower. And needle down. Lift. In this case, I'm going to use my fingers. And needle down. If you're wanting these Applique rods, we're almost sold out. All of a sudden, a bunch of people are using her products for something. I don't know. Somebody must be teaching to use them. People buying 7 boxes of her glue all at once. Not sure what they're teaching out there, but it takes a while to get her products back because we import them from Spain. And the scissors you saw me using before were hers as well. So I don't like the way that's going to look. And bring it back out and down, and we're getting close to done with this. I have no idea how many hours I've been going. But we did start 15 minutes late today because the microphone did not work. Once again, we're at a V, and I think that's going to be right. Let's see. Yep. So when I'm not teaching while I'm talking, I can think this through better, and I do use my needle down, needle up button. But not everybody has the needle up, needle down, so I like to show you, talk about using the hand wheel. Aren't you glad I did a small butterfly? I'd be here all day. Thank God for fast forwarding for those of you who are watching on the replay. Yeah, this is the absolute best thing I've ever used for this, this tool. Oh my goodness. My hand is not, my fingernail gets sore, or the joint. And it's a habit that I have, and I usually use the presser whenever my finger gets sore, but this is far better than the presser for this particular technique. The only time I feel like I need my fingers is on these inside points. One more. And up and over, and we're almost done. I started getting away from the edge. It's looking too much at that needle. So notice I went from that to go around this curve. I'm focused on it though. I got to stop looking at it. Look at the guide on the foot instead. If you don't lift and move the fabric, and lift and move the fabric, you'll end up with puckers on that yellow part, the lower fabric. The main body of the material is what I call it. I gotta tell Rosa at Applique, about this. And I'm not holding this, like squeezing this. It has a ergonomic shape to it that makes it comfortable in your hand. Kind of like a chopstick, except for a lot more sturdy. Stretch on stretch fabric. Now I wish I had a little granddaughter to give these pants to. I could always save them. One more. Now I want to tie that knot again. Whoopsie. Okay, so I pulled on the fabric, and you hear that ding dong, ding dong. That was the machine's alarm. And you see the needle is still attached to the thread or the tip. And this is why I was mentioning that you don't want to use the 7511 needle for sewing elastic. You want to use the 9014. But the machine kind of warns you that something went wrong, and it locks the gears. And the point of that is if your needle doesn't break, if for instance your needle hits something, and in this case it was the wire because of how I held onto this and I kind of pulled, which is because that's the first time I've used that really. But when the needle goes down and it hits something that's too hard or too thick to go through for the machine, it will lock up like that and stop the needle from going any further. And if it didn't, the needle would go down into the machine, and the needle and hook would not be in alignment with one another. So when the needle would come down, the hook would not go behind the needle, but it would go in front of the needle. And then it would drag the needle around. And that's what happens with a titanium needle, and why I really don't recommend you use those. They're kind of risky to your sewing machine. I've seen some serious damage made by using those, where the needle did not break, instead it bent. So I use the knot stitch so I don't have to worry about that. I got the broken needle. And now I'm going to pick it up off the floor and show you it up close. No, it's so fluffy that the stitch is kind of disappearing. Here's an area where you can see. So here's what happens when you go too far on, and why you don't want to look at the needle, but the guide instead. And when I showed you that point, you see that point? Now I need the light. Let's see. See how it has that nice point right there before it goes, and how nice and consistent I am off the edge. And now we're going to flip this over. And I normally would peel all of this away, except for this hold light's going to stop this from stretching as I sew it into the garment. So we'll be able to remove this after we've sewn this in to the pants. Let's see, where are we at in time? 5:13. I've already gone 3 hours. And I start to feel tired. And those of you on the East Coast are usually feeling tired as well. So I think what I'm going to do is end this, and this will be part 1 of a 2-part video series. And now next week, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and sew these pants up and teach you the rest of what I know about stretch fabrics and how to sew them into garments, or how to sew garments without having issues, even though you're not using a serger. And I will do a better job because I won't be starving and tired. And since my dog woke me up at 4 in the morning, But you see how nice that is? And there's not a single pucker on this because my hands were not down holding on, and I didn't have to sit like this while appliquing, and neither do you if you use the Satinedge Foot, which is one of the creative feet that you find at creativefeet.com, which is tagged at the top of the chat and is in the description of the video once I end the live. And I'm going to go ahead and look at the chat for a little bit and see. So I know how much you guys enjoy it when I break a needle, because it happens to you as well. And I think that is my 4th broken needle for 2021. So that's a lot of broken needles for me. How many needles have you broken in 2021? Because this is season 2 of Fabrically Speaking Live, and this is episode 26. I've taken 2 Thursdays off of the year for holidays, and shouldn't be taking another one off for a long time. So yes, the Applique tools, and Applique is spelt wrong. There's only one P in Applique. So if you're interested in getting those, they are at creativefeet.com under our tools. So we have products link, and then we have the tools link. See, my brain can't think of what I need to do to show you the next thing. Oopsie. Uh-oh. Close. Oh, that's how I do it. Okay. Trying to figure out how to close this. Oh, if I go over here and close. There we go. Now we go to creativefeet.com. And we're almost sold out of all of this, which is the ribbon that I used with the sequins and ribbon foot, which I'll be using next week to sew the elastic. I'm going to show you how to make elastic not twist in the waistband, which is something that most educators don't teach because most feet don't work well with elastic, but ours does. So if you click on products, you'll see it's broken down by type of product, and tools is where you'll find the Applique rods. Easy to detect. She also has the scissors that you saw me use, and these are her absolutely fantastic tweezers that you barely even feel like you're squeezing for pulling threads and holding little tiny pieces when doing applique. These are the fab dies. One of you mentioned the Cricut for cutting fabric. We have dies that cut fabric as well. Those are the cute ones, and these are the utility ones. These are the good ones for quilting and appliques and stuff where you've seen me use them on different episodes of Fabrically Speaking Live. If you haven't, well, you better start watching all of them. Some of them are really long though. And I mentioned my pressers. These are very popular. I currently have several orders in for them and plan to do them tomorrow. So if you get an order in tonight for any of the pressers, then your presser will be made tomorrow. Unless something happens, like we have thunderstorms running because it's a machine and we don't run any of our equipment while we have thunderstorms ahead. So we have all kinds of colors and options for you. Bright ones if you tend to lose things in your drawer. And they're all my favorite. I can't pick a favorite, so I know that they're all prettier than they look in these pictures, but you can look really close at them. That's the tiger wood. This one's a very popular one. The Tropic Jungle. You'll see the name there, and they're all in stock, but they're not made. I make them. And you can watch the video on how I make them by clicking on this link. If I click on that link right now, the feed will stop. And then if you haven't seen the Creative Feet yet, this is the page for the Creative Feet. You can buy them separately. The one I use today is Satinedge. all of them will be used for this project except for, oh, that's right, I won't be using pearls and piping unless I decide, and I may, to put piping around this piece. The pearls and piping foot would be used for piping, and it's used for all sizes of piping. So if you make children's clothes, you need all 3 of these feet. They will make your sewing much better. If you want to know all the techniques, then you get the educational special, which is available in a printed book version of our binder, which I do have here on the set that I could show you, where you can make samples of all the different techniques. I teach you 61 different things in this. The creative feet are capable of doing well over 300 different sewing techniques. And very soon I'm going to record the first session of the Creative Feet Extensive, which a lot of you are waiting for. So I'm getting close to being ready to do that. Super excited. You love your presser. Do you know which one you got, Amy? Yeah, how many needles do you think you broke in your entire sewing careers, you guys? That's definitely something people can buy you for your birthday and you will not mind. So anything else? You got a glass of wine? You know, I'm thinking of that. Maybe I will have wine tonight. My favorite is a Malbec. I don't drink very much wine anymore. I usually like to have someone over to drink it with me, or I'll waste half of the bottle. Well, I'm sorry I didn't get to finish this project today. But now you see how many ways you can go wrong in printing out a PDF file. So make sure that you have your settings set to actually print actual size. And I think that's what happened is I had something else in my PDF program that I printed right before I printed the first time I printed the pattern. And then so it squished it and made it smaller. And then it also printed on both sides for half of it and not on the other half. So just so you know, I can get very wonky as well. If you feel like there's something wrong with you because you have issues with that, just know that no matter how many years of experience I have at printing, I struggle sometimes with the PDF printing. Tina, did you write 0 because you have never broken a needle, or that you haven't broken any in 2021? And I think everyone can congratulate you on that, unless you haven't been sewing for 2021. You broke 40 in 2021 or 40 in your sewing career? I know I've broken more than 40 needles in 37 years of teaching. Guess it depends on how much you sew as to how many opportunities you have to break a needle. Okay, I've gone back far enough to where I think that I've seen all of the things I might be able to elaborate on. If you did not get an answer to something, type it right now, because I'm ending within the next like 3 minutes. You have the plum. It's a pretty one. It's a very popular one. I've done a lot of plums. Still, congratulations, Tina. No broken needles in an entire 6 months. That's a lot of success. I'm so happy for you. Not bad, Pat. 3. I'm 1 ahead of you. All right, so I think we're going to end for tonight, and I will see you next week to complete these cute little pants for maybe my future granddaughter. Crossing fingers. 60 years, Susan, you beat me. I think it's 37. years that I've been teaching sewing. Been sewing since I was 4, but didn't pick up the sewing machine until I was 9. And I learned on a treadle. How many of you learned on a treadle? Actually, my girlfriend's mother was the one that taught me how to use the sewing machine. It wasn't my mother. My poor mother wanted to, but I was so stubborn about learning everything on my own. And it was just a coinky-dink that I was at my girlfriend's house when her mother was teaching her how to make a pencil case, and I was like, I want to learn, and it had a zipper. I was so excited. I also plan on teaching invisible zippers, a more detailed version of that, probably one of the pre-recorded coming up soon, so that you can learn why the invisible zipper manufacturer actually called to ask if he could package my pearls and piping foot as the invisible zipper foot, and I told him no, because all of you would be mad if you already bought my pearls and piping foot only to find out you bought it again and it was just this time called the invisible zipper foot. And he didn't want to, you know, have a different brand for his zipper. So that's a little history for you that you may not be aware of. So I was thinking of using the invisible zipper in what I'm going to do. Hi, Tink. Well, we can end with you. I was thinking about making this into something. Maybe a bag or a pillow with an invisible zipper. I don't know. What do you think I should make this with? Leave it a comment in the description below, or in the once the video ends. Tell me what I should do with this, and then week after next I will teach whatever it is you guys come up with, the most comments. I will turn that into whatever you guys want, not next week but the following week. So episode 28 will be making this into something. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye, and Tinkerbell says goodbye as well. And I hope you have a wonderful evening and enjoy your dinners. There's more than one way to sew an invisible zipper. So I've already shown one in my bridal purse video. In the playlist, because when you go to my YouTube channel, there's playlist. You click on playlist. There's the Clare Rowley's Creative Notions, and that's my show where I'm not live. And in that show, I did a bridesmaid's purse, and in that I used an invisible zipper in a different way, and I also used an invisible zipper differently in this bag, which is part of the Fabrically Speaking live videos. I'm worried that Chase is going to take the iron down. So the next invisible zipper will be the way that he intended the invisible zipper to appear, invisible, so you can't see it. And it would be a cool thing to put on a bag. I was thinking about doing a front pocket too, with the placket style pocket. So we'll see. It's up to you guys, but you can't get it from me unless you write it in the comment. Aw. After the video is over. Stay safe, everybody. Stay cool. And I will see you next week. Bye. Mwah. That's where you'll find the hold light. I think that's, yeah, and our fuse and fuse, which are the two I used today. Bye.